Shabbat Shalom, everybody. This is Teddy Wilson here at Seekers of Yahweh once again with our Seekers Sabbath Live service. I'm going to be beginning this morning with the sounding of the shofar. Hallelujah. So again, we want to welcome everybody who is here today. We want to thank those who are going to be late. We also want to thank Yahweh for all of you that are going to be joining us on social media, whether in the live version or in the recorded version. My family would like to thank all of you for your condolences and for the support of a trial that we've been going through. And we thank you so much. You have no idea how much it means to us for all of you to reach out to us and try to comfort us in this time of trouble. And we just can't wait to see most of you for Passover and truly come beside one another and love on one another once again. Those of you that wish you could be here, we wish you were here as well. Yes. And we want to thank and praise Yahweh today for your support. Having said that, we're going to get into this PowerPoint here in a moment, but I want to add something to this that will be an inspiration to many of us that are going through the same type of trials. It's not easy. But there comes a time whenever we have to get past the hurt and start buckling down to what Yahweh has appointed us to do. And it's not easy. It's as if in the dead of night, when the world won't stop shaking you, and when the waters of this life will not stop rising, it's only then that you will understand that Yahweh will not let us go in the midst of this battle. He will not let us go in the midst of the battle. He's not a coward. He's not afraid to fight. And he's a righteous king, and he loves us. And he's not going to leave us begging for bread. And he's not going to leave us to fight the enemy on our own. He's a good, trusting shepherd. He's going to be there through every last moment of it. The crying part, the angry part, and the rejuvenating part of every trial that we go through. He will not leave us. Yesterday morning, the evil seed whispered in my ear and said, "You're not strong enough to undergo this storm." But this morning, on Yahweh Shabbat, I yell aloud in the ear of the evil seed, "I am the storm." We, the body of Messiah, are the storm. This is Yahweh's ministry, Yahweh's priesthood. Me, my family, our loved ones, and the brethren here will not bow down to your weak and cowardly temptations and trials and accusations. We will survive, and you will not. He's the one that will not survive this. We will. So I stand against that evil seed that whispered in my ear and may at times have whispered in yours. In the midst of a trial, know that there is a blessing coming. It's on the horizon. But we must persevere, and we must stand firm in what we believe and what he has appointed for us to do. Bearing the cup is something we will all do in our search for truth and through our endurance. Yahweh has called us into something that is really not supposed to be a cakewalk. There will be trials and tribulation in the testing of our faith. So before we get into the PowerPoint, I want to cover some scriptural passages here from the New Testament all the way back to Deuteronomy, and then we'll go into the PowerPoint. Everybody, please get your scriptures. Follow along if you have them. We're going to begin by opening with John chapter 16. Verses 31 through 33. Yohanan, John chapter 16, verses 31 through 33. Yeshua answered them, "Do you now believe? See, an hour is coming and has now come that you are scattered, each to his own, and leave me alone. Yet I am not alone, because the Father is with me. These words I have spoken to you, that in me you might have shalom. In the world you will have trouble and pressure. But take courage. I have overcome the world." These are the words of our Master. And he says that in the world, we're going to have troubles. But he promises that in the end, he's given us the power to overcome in him. So all of the top ones were filled with this hope, with this encouragement that we will overcome. But there will be trials and there will be tribulation. It's spoken about everywhere in our scriptures. But we always see that Yahweh has made his people to overcome, even after their chastisement, even after their rising and falling. He's the only one that can lift us up again, and that's where we must place our energy, and our focus is on him and his word and his ways. Because the moment we begin to think and dwell too much upon what has happened in this world, what happens? The world begins to send a tidal wave your way, and it's going to knock you down. I seen a picture last night of a Roman soldier having a dream about the crucifixion of Yeshua. And it showed a very broad picture of the ocean during a tremendous thunderstorm, and the waves were rising everywhere. And there was an object in the middle of that ocean. And as the object got closer, it was Yeshua, nailed to the stake, hovering over the waters. And that is inspirational. No matter what the world and its problems may send our way, remember that he has been lifted up over that, and he is able to calm the waters and the sea. Did he not? They said, "Wake up, Master. Do you not care that we're about to perish?" And he said, "Oh, ye of little faith." And the Creator, while he was here with us, redeeming us, stood on the bow of the boat and commanded the wind and the waves to cease. And he's going to do that in your life. And then they questioned and asked one another, "Who is this Well, now we know. We know who Yahshua was. We know his ability. And today I stand before you again saying that we will survive and he will not. The enemy is the one who will not survive. We will. So he educated and taught his disciples these same principles. We are overcomers. And no matter how bad our feelings are hurt, no matter what type of loss that we have had, you better bet that if it is a loss of life, that seed belonged to Yah because it was planted by a man and woman of Yah. You're not going to win there either. One day we will see all of the seed of Yahweh, of Yisrael, in one place, of one mind and one body. And we will see those who have been lost in this battle. And we will all watch the enemy that has chosen to tempt and take lives as he's cast into the lake of fire. We will have the last laugh. We will. James chapter 1. Yaakov. Chapter 1, verses 1 through 4. Yaakov, a what? Servant of Elohim, and of the Master, Yahshua Messiah, to the 12 tribes who are in the dispersion. Greetings. My brothers, count it all joy when you fall into various trials, knowing that the proving of your belief works endurance. And let endurance have its perfect work, so that you be perfected and complete, lacking in nothing. So I've heard people over the last few days tell me, we're going to be stronger. This is going to make you stronger. We're going to endure. This is going to make us stronger. And you know what? I believe that today. I believe it. And I believe it's going to make you strong. All of us will be equipped with the power of the good news. We have life and life eternal coming in the body of Messiah. Kepha or Peter, 1 Peter. Chapter 5. Verses 1 through 10. Now, remember, sometimes we invoke things on ourselves, and I have many times stood up here whenever my brothers and sisters were going through something in the world. And I said, why don't you come pick on me? Right? And he has. But I'll tell you, if my trial that I have now overcome has saved my brothers and sisters by me saying that, by putting myself on the spot saying, you know what, I'm a little bit more mature than those people in the faith. Why don't you come pick on me? And he did. But you know what? I count it joy because it just may have saved one of my brothers and sisters and their family from going through something that would have caused them to fall back, be knocked down and not get back up. But guess what? I'm standing up today. You're standing up today. We are standing up today, and we will not take a loss as a loss. We are going to make it a gain. It's going to strengthen us. So I've invoked these things on myself throughout the years here as the elder at this ministry. And I've got to take it as it comes. I received so many phone calls. I had a specific phone call from one of the brothers who's preparing priestly garments for me to conduct the Passover service with. And at that point, I had not said anything to him. And he was so excited about the material that he was getting and where he was going to have it made and my measurements and everything. And I didn't have the heart to tell the brother what I was going through. And Yahweh hadn't called me back just minutes later, and I had to tell him. But it was as if Yahweh was saying, you know what? You know who you are. You know who you're representing. You are going to wear these garments. You will drink of the cups. That's it. Dust yourself off and quit worrying about everything. He's got us. He has us in his hand. Verses 1 through 10 in 1 Peter chapter 5. Therefore, as fellow elder and a witness of the sufferings of Messiah, and also the share of the esteem that is to be revealed, I appeal to the elders among you. Shepherd the flock of Elohim, which is among you, serving as overseers, not by compulsion, but voluntarily, not out of greed or filthy gain, but eagerly, neither as being masters over those entrusted to you, but being examples to the flock. And when the chief shepherd appears, you shall receive the never-fading crown of glory, the crown of esteem. In the same way, you younger ones be subject to the elders, and gird yourselves with humility toward one another, for Elohim resists the proud, but gives favor to the humble. Humble yourselves under the mighty hand of Elohim, so that he exalts you in due time, casting all of your worries and cares upon him, because he cares for you. He's concerned about you. Be sober, watch, because your adversary, the devil, walks around like a roaring lion, seeking someone to devour. Resist him. Firm in the faith, firm in the belief, knowing that the same hardships are experienced by your brotherhood in the world. And the Elohim of all favor, who called you to his everlasting glory, his everlasting esteem, by Messiah Yeshua, after you have suffered a while, himself perfect, establish, strengthen, and settle you. There's perfection, peace, shalom at the end of all of these things that we go through. Praise Yah. Deuteronomy chapter 7. As we see our brother, remember it just said, this is something that all of the brethren are going to go through. It's not something that just we are going to go through, not just the body of Messiah, but all of Israel has partaken of these hardships, all believers in Yahweh's word. Deuteronomy chapter 7. Picking up at verse 12. And it shall be, because you hear these right rulings and shall guard and do them, that Yahweh your Elohim shall guard with you the covenant and the kindness which he swore to your fathers. So you see, this is the way of overcoming. Not to slack off, but to push forward. Don't stop. Keep pushing forward. Verse 13, and shall love you and bless you and increase you, and shall bless the fruit of your womb. Listen, don't think that the fruit of our womb has been lost. It's resting in Abraham's bosom. Okay, it's not lost. Any of you out there that may have lost children, please understand what I'm saying. If that seed was planted into a woman of Yah, and that woman of Yah was in covenant with the Elohim of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, then it is in the bosom of Abraham. The enemy has done nothing but make the messengers angry. Right, the battle is only in your mind. It is because of our emotions. But you know what? Today we can stand tall and we can look at one another, and we're here and we can hug on one another and say, it's going to be all right. It's going to be okay. Bless the fruit of your womb and the fruit of your land, your grain and your new wine and your oil, the increase of your cattle and the offspring of your flock, in the land of which he swore to your fathers to give you. Blessed are you above all people. There is not going to be a barren man or a barren woman among you or among your livestock. And Yahweh shall turn away from you all sickness and put on you none of the evil diseases of Mitzrayim which you have known, but he shall put them on all those who hate you. And you shall consume all the people whom Yahweh your Elohim is delivering over to you. Your eye shall not pardon them, and do not serve their mighty ones, for that is a snare unto you. When you say in your heart, these nations are greater than I, see this? The troubled waters, here they come. Oh, this is a bigger situation than I can handle. No, it isn't. No, it isn't. When you say in your heart, these nations are greater than I am unable to drive them out. Do not be afraid of them. Who is the ruler of the nations right now? The enemy. So whenever these things, while we're out here in the nations, comes upon us, true believers, those who have been baptized in the body of Yahshua, get ready. I've told everybody that I've ever immersed, you better get ready. Because we have a huge bullseye on our back. Do not be afraid of them. Remember well what Yahweh your Elohim did to Pharaoh, did to the evil ruler, and to all of Mitzrayim, all of the world. Remember, many times Pharaoh is a picture of the enemy and the ruler over the world. Now look at verse 19. The great trials which your eyes saw, while they were in the midst of the land of Egypt, they saw all of these great trials. But yet Yahweh made them an overcomer out of each and every one of them. He protected them in the midst of these trials that came down in the world. Did he not? We should be encouraged by these words today. We come against and rebuke the accuser of the brethren who is causing sickness all over the body of Yahshua by going and accusing us before the Father. We come against him and rebuke him. The great trials which your eyes saw, the signs and the wonders, the strong hand and the outstretched arm by which Yahweh Elohim brought you out, Yahweh Elohim does so to the peoples of whom you are afraid. Yahweh has our back. As much as I did not want to get up here today, as much as I just wanted to lay there and just think and pray, that's the worst thing I could have done. This is the best thing that I could do, that we could do, is come together in a time of trouble and worship our King on Shabbat. Closing with Hebrews chapter 10. Verse 31 through 36. Ibram chapter 10, verse 31 through 36. It is fearsome to fall into the hands of the living Elohim. How many of us, since we came to the knowledge of the truth, have been brought through serious trials? Everybody in the room should have two hands raised. I know you. It's a fearful thing to fall into the hands of the living Elohim. It's not fearful to fall into the hands of one that does not live, if it's been appointed to die, who's made himself an Elohim, right? Are you following me? It is a fearful thing to fall into the hands of the living Elohim. Verse 32. But remember the former days when after you were enlightened, you endured great struggle with sufferings. On the one hand, you were exposed to reproaches and pressures. On the other hand, you became sharers with those who were so treated. For you sympathize with me in my chains, and you accepted with joy the seizure of your possessions, knowing that you have a better and a lasting possession for yourselves in the heavens. You know, I had a bunch of the brothers say, we're so sorry, and we're praying for you. And boy, that comforted me. But one of the brothers sent me an email, and he said, you know, you must be teaching something right. And he brought up this passage. And that's why I wanted to add to the original PowerPoint. Because Yahshua does not promise eternal life in the flesh on this planet. Good things happen to bad people, and bad things happen to good people. It is the way the world operates, and we are stuck in it. What we choose to do during the struggle and what we choose to do after the struggle, whether we endure or not, that is where the barakot or the blessings of Yah will exist. At the end, he promises everlasting life. This life is not what he made for us. It's what we made for ourselves in the garden. You better bet he loves you. He loves us. Verse 35, do not then lose your boldness, which has great reward. For you have need of endurance, so that when you have done the desire of Elohim, you what? Receive the promise. After you've been through all of the struggles that this world has to offer, I want to encourage all of those out there in the body of Messiah that are going through these types of struggles. Any struggle, you must persevere. You can persevere. And you know what? Call us. 208-553-8393. If we're able to get there, we will be there. And we appreciate everyone for extending the condolences to us. But at this time, I can't focus on those things, and we need to focus on one another. We really need to focus on one another and our well-being. Because if we endure till the end, then our expectation and what we have been enlightened to will be made known through the promise that was given to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. It's only after we go through the persecutions and the struggles that we receive the promise. The Christian world has us thinking, when we see a brother or a sister going through it, I mean, unless they are walking in disobedience. The second we see something, the church has taught us, oh, they got something going on in their household, man, or whatever in their life. But if you know that there is someone before you that is living the life that the Torah tells them to live, that's not the occasion. That's not the situation. We're being tested, tried, we're struggling, we're persevering, and we're becoming stronger. Right, it's about our character. If I know that there are people going through a situation and I know that they've been doing something that's disobedient to Yahweh's law, well then of course, well it could be, that's one thing that could be happening. Yahweh is correcting. But that brother told me, you must be teaching something right. Don't stop. That encouraged me. So we're not going to stop. We're going to continue to push forward. We're going to continue to baptize. We're going to continue as long as Yahweh gives us the ability to host the feasts. And as long as I am alive and my health remains the way it is, then we're going to be okay. That's it. Whatever he chooses to do with his servants is upon him. But you must be his servant. We must understand what servitude to the king is. It's making the appointed times. It's caring about one another. And it's loving on one another. You know, the problem today is that the church has ingrained in us this thing that we're supposed to love our neighbor like ourselves, means that this guy that lives next door to you, that's a drunk and a druggie and everything else, is the person that you're supposed to love unconditionally. No. I'm not saying that we don't try to help that person, but when that command was given, it's when all of Israel was living next to each other around the holy place in tents. We spend more time focusing on unbelievers and helping them than we do on one another and helping one another. We need to come together in a serious way and support one another and help one another. Treat one another with respect and dignity and love. First, we have to focus on Yahweh and his people. Then, as we come together and are strengthened in that respect, then we reach out to the world. You try to reach out to the world by yourself, it's going to suck your pocket dry. It's going to suck your spiritual life dry, because ain't no single man other than Yahshua Messiah was able to overcome anything in this world. Anything. Nothing. The world has got us. So, we will survive. The enemy will not. That is the promise. So, having said that, the story of the cupbearer, I was talking to one of the brothers on the phone. He said that PowerPoint really moved me. We're going to look at it from this perspective today. Remember all of the things that Yahshua went through. Don't think you won't. And if you're not going through the things that Yahshua did, and you're not sharing in the struggles that Yahshua did, the rejection that Yahshua did, the condemnation by others that Yahshua did, then you are not living the life that Yahshua did. It's that simple. If you're living in comfort and you never have a problem, and you are trying to get us to believe that you are walking within the will of Yahweh, that is a lie. Don't lie to yourself, and don't try to lie to me. Sometimes you can bless yourself, and those things are not coming from the one that I serve. If you're doing things or allowing things in your home or in your life that are contrary to his word. If you think you feel blessed, you blessed yourself. The blessings of Yahweh come through obedience to the Devarim of his Debar, the words in his word. We will bear the cup. We have to. Genesis 41, Bereshit, chapter 41. One through 16. And it came to be at the end of 2 years, 2 years' time, that Pharaoh had a dream and saw him standing by the river, and saw 7 cows coming up out of the river, fine looking and fat, and they fed amongst the reeds. Then saw 7 other cows coming up after them out of the river, ugly and lean of flesh, and stood by the other cows on the bank of the river. And the ugly and lean flesh cows ate up the 7 fine-looking and fat cows. Then Pharaoh awoke. And he slept and had his second dreamed a second time and saw 7 heads of grain coming up on one stalk, plump and good, and saw 7 lean heads scorched by the east wind coming up after them. And the 7 lean heads swallowed up the 7 plump and complete heads. Then Pharaoh awoke and saw it was a dream. And it came to be in the morning that his spirit was moved, and he sent and called for all the magicians of Mitzrayim and all wise men. And Pharaoh related them his dreams, but there was not one who could interpret them for Pharaoh this day. Verse 10. When Pharaoh was wroth with his servants and put me in confinement in the house of the captain of the guard, both me and the chief baker, each one of us dreamed a dream in one night, he and I. Each of us dreamed according to the interpretation of his own dream. And there was with us a Hebrew youth. A servant of the captain of the guard, and we related to him, and he interpreted our dreams for us. To each man he interpreted according to his own dream. And it came to be as he interpreted for us, so it came to be. He restored me to my office, and he hanged him. The Pharaoh sent and called Joseph, and they hurriedly brought him out of the dungeon, and he shaved and changed his garments and came to Pharaoh. And Pharaoh said to Joseph, I have dreamed a dream, and there is no one to interpret it. Now I myself have heard it said of you that you understand a dream to interpret it. Listen what he says. Verse 16. And Joseph answered Pharaoh, saying, it is not me. Let Elohim answer Pharaoh with shalom. He said, the cupbearer is giving me the credit. But now that I stand before you, I'm going to tell you that it isn't me, but the one I serve. He allows me to interpret things in this life. Since I was a young child, I knew that I would bear the cup. Since I was a child, I knew that others would come before me. Since I was a child, he has revealed to me my own dreams. It's Elohim who reveals the dreams of men for prophetic reasons. The cupbearer gives the testimony of interpreting dreams, accrediting it to Yahweh. Right? Verse 9 and verse 13, then the chief cupbearer spoke to Pharaoh, saying, I remember my crimes this day. And it came to be as he interpreted for us, so it came to be, and he restored me to my office, and he hanged him. We must be a cupbearer to the king in order not to be hanged by the enemy. You must be able to drink both sour wine and the good wine at the wedding. The best wine. You must be able to drink them both and stand it. What was he given on the stake? Bitter wine. You must be able to undergo the good with the bad. Nevertheless, you must bear the cup for the king. You will, if you are truly his servant. That's what we just seen him say and all of his servants say. So the church cannot indoctrinate us with these concepts of, oh boy, they must have done something wrong. No, you've done something right. If you've walked within the will of Elohim and you're starting to make choices that are geared in service to him, rather than your own plans. But many times, there's 2 cups already sitting there. Your decision will be, well, which one am I going to test for you today? Great King. We must be a cupbearer to our King. Matthew chapter 26, verses 26 through 29. And as they were eating, Yahshua took bread and having blessed, broke it and gave it to his taught ones and said, "Take, eat. This is my body." And taking the cup and giving thanks, he gave it to them, saying, "Drink from it." See this? What did he tell his disciples? "Here, take this cup, and all of you will drink from it. To be my disciple, we're all going to drink from this cup." And it's nice wine. It's good wine presented by the king. Right? "Drink from it, all of you, for this is my blood, that of the renewed covenant, which is shed for many for the forgiveness of sin. But I say to you, I shall certainly not drink of this cup, certainly not drink of this fruit of the vine from now on till that day when I drink it anew with you in the reign of my Father." Do you understand what he just said? Remember all of the, when he turned the water into wine? Remember all of the pictures he gave you? He said, that's when we're going to drink the fine wine. Right now, it's going to be bitter and it's going to be sour because the world is going to crucify you. You must be willing to drink both types of wine to be a servant of Almighty Yah. You must receive the good and the bad. Through the good and the bad, the good times. We want to embrace those. It's natural for us to want to embrace the good things in this life. But the good things in this life are actually rubbish. The life he has planned for us is going to be sweet, not bitter. It's all geared towards picturing a cup that we will drink together in marriage, at the marriage supper of the Lamb in the book of Revelation. Now, this word cupbearer in many versions is a chief butler. Wow, it's just two totally different worlds, isn't it, whenever you come to understand that. We got cupbearer and then we had chief butler. Well, it is a servant, but bearing a cup, you know what the significance of that? I think we're going to go over that, but the significance of a cupbearer is you're going to drink this for the king. Because it could be tainted. You must be willing to risk your life to protect the king and his kingdom. We must be willing to lay down our life for the king because the king laid down his life for us. The bitter and the sweet. And it's the combination of the Hebrew word 8269 and 4945. Chief, there you see, is the Hebrew word sar. And it means a head person of any rank or class. You'll find that in the Strong's. That's the Strong's definition. Butler is mashkeh. Mashkeh in Hebrew, and the Strong says, causing to drink, i.e. a butler. So that gives you a little bit better idea. Chief, in the ancient Hebrew lexicon, 1342 AN on page 203, says noble, one who has authority. So do you understand that the authority that Yahshua has given us, especially the men of the house and the women that bear the seed, not so much the children, but we have already established and been given authority, and it is an authoritative role to test the cup before you pass it to the brethren. Yeah, or your seed. You've got to test it and make sure it's all right. That is our position. The weight of responsibility on one who is in authority. And there you see the sin resh. This is the picture of a thorn. And the thorn can do one of two things. It can protect from the enemy. They used to protect the herds by putting hedges of thorns around the animals. Because when the enemy would come in to try to get the flock, they had to get through all of these crowns of thorns that was protecting the sheep, the goats, the herd. So this authoritative role is a role as a cupbearer that will cause protection of the head. We're going to protect the head. Think of the queen bee, right? All of the other bees are going to fight till the death to protect that queen. Because that queen, within itself, has the ability to keep the household moving forward and multiplying. So what happened? The king gave his life for us, protected us as the head. Then he appoints us as the head over the earth, and we are to protect the other heads that will pop up in the earth. It's all bearing seed for him. It's an authoritative role. We all must be cupbearers to some certain extent. My position, a little bit different than yours.
Isn't that what the big accuser accused God of? Says, you build that hedge around Job.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and yes.
He will build that hedge around us.
Yes, and so the brother's pointing out that Yahweh had put a hedge around him. See, this is a hedge of protection, and if the enemy comes before, and if he sees that hedge anywhere, he's going to try to attack it and pick it apart. He has to in order to get into the flock. There can be no other way. So yeah, it's a great point. Butler, there you see Mem, Shin, Kuf, Hey. Now look at this. Drink, water for drinking, as well as a vessel or place for water. Also one who brings water. See that? One who brings the cup to the king. So not only are we to drink of the cup, somebody from the kitchen has given us the cup to take to him, and somewhere in between, it's your role as a believer to test that cup before you bring it and present it to the king. That's a pretty dangerous role, isn't it? Hence, the trials, the tribulations, the struggles. We see those who were enemies of the stake in Rome and Judea, even people who claimed to be his servants, threw him on the stake and gave him sour wine, didn't they? What kind of cupbearer is that? Are we to be guilty of the same? We have to partake of the same. We see by the ancient Hebrew letters used in these words for cupbearer that it was his job to make sure that the king's cup was clean in all aspects of the word. Yahshua used the same analogy when he was talking about, well, the outside of the cup looks great, but when I look inside, it's filthy. He was telling me, you are not bearing cups fit for me. You're not going to bring me that stuff. I'm not going to take it. Not from you. Right. We must, as a cupbearer, we must make sure that what is in the cup and the cup itself. Okay, what is a cup? Think function here. Well, let's get some Hebrew in here. What does a cup do? What is it? It's a vessel, right? And inside that vessel, there's going to be liquid. So our job is to be a vessel that cleanses other vessels and brings those vessels with the fluid that is in them and present it to the king. It's our duty to make our children cup bearers and prepare them for the struggles of this life in order that their faith will not waver. A good example for a child is to watch its father and its mother as vessels of Yahweh go through trials and tribulations, but always rise above it after the tears and give glory to Yahweh Elohim. Present that cup, that seed, that wine, that cleanliness to our King. It's not easy. We can do it. We can do it. That bearing the cup, we must make sure that it's cleansed and it's freshly pressed in a time of revelation. In a time of revelation, we are to present something that is clean and freshly pressed to the king. See, the hay at the end there means something in the future. Something that will be revealed, something that will be presented. Not something that already has been presented, which I submit to you is the sour wine. Right? But in the future, there will be no sour wine presented to the king at the marriage supper of the Lamb. It will all be freshly pressed for the time of revelation, and it will be cleansed. The cup on the outside and what is on the inside will be clean and ready for the king as we present it to him. Good wine. He showed us that in the parable. Oh, you saved the best wine for last. Yep. Freshly squeezed, just picked, perfectly fermented. The timing of the fermentation was perfect. This wine is freshly pressed, freshly bottled in the proper wineskins, please, vessels. The message of the good news is in our service as a cupbearer. And it's not easy to bear this cup. So here's the weight of responsibility spoken about. I dug up some information about cupbearers. A cupbearer was an officer of high rank in royal courts, whose duty it was to serve the drinks at the royal table. On account of the constant fear of plots and intrigues, a person must be regarded as thoroughly trustworthy to hold this position. Everybody out there in social media land, take a good look at yourself. Everybody here today, take a good look at yourself. Are we trustworthy? Are we faithful to him before anything else? Including yourself. Right? To hold this position, he must guard against poison in the king's cup and was sometimes required to swallow some of the wine before serving it. His confidential relations with the king often gave him a position of great influence. The position of a cupbearer is greatly valued and given to only a select few throughout history. Wake up, remnant. The small remnant of people out there, you've been called to bear the cup. We must be trustworthy and faithful to the king. Qualifications for the job were not held lightly, but of high esteem, valued for their beauty and even more for their modesty which I'm going to be doing a teaching on modesty probably next Shabbat. Industriousness and courage. Now, modesty might not, I mean, that's an English word, but when we look at modesty from a scriptural and Hebrew perspective, men, it starts with you. It does not fall over onto the woman. It's your eye and your hand. It's what you work, what you cover, what you uncover makes up the English word modesty. It's about your eye. It's all about the eye, men. Will you drink the cup? Matthew chapter 20, verse 22 and 23. Now remember, this is when the woman came and said, will you allow my sons to sit on either side of you in your kingdom? But see, while the word was here in the flesh, it didn't have the ability to supersede the spirit that spoke the word in the Tanakh. And we already know who has been given authority and who has been granted the ability to set with him in his kingdom. It's Israel and Judah. It's not any one individual. You must be part of Israel or Judah to repent and come back to the knowledge of Torah. Is how you become an Israelite or a Jew. You guys are going to call him Jew. I say Yada. To become through Yada, okay, or Yisrael, you must come to Yahweh through those two groups of people, Yada and Yisrael. There is no other way. There is no other way. Through repentance, the accepting of Yahshua Messiah, and being baptized and cleansed to prepare your fruit, prepare yourself as fruit, to be pressed. What are we doing right now through our trials and tribulations? We are fruit that's being pressed. But what comes out of us is what will go into the cup. Please understand, what comes out of us when we are pressed is what will go in the cup. That's why whenever bad things happen, Yahweh only allows a certain time for mourning, because you're being pressed. And if you let that pressing overtake you and it goes on too long, then the wine becomes sour, and that which is being pressed out of you is not receivable and not desirable for the king. That's why he told everybody, get up, dust yourself off. It's time to get back on track. Start producing good wine. Look at what he says here. But Yahshua answering said, you do not know what you ask. Isha? He said, Isha, woman, you don't know what you're asking. Are you able to drink the cup that I am about to drink? It's a sour wine. Are you willing to be crucified to stand next to me in my kingdom? Or is your sons, your daughters? And to be immersed with the immersion that I am immersed with? To be engulfed, the waters of the world. He's talking about this as the world is coming in upon me. I'm being immersed in the world so that you can be free. Listen to this. They said to him, we are able. You just committed yourself. You told the Messiah, I'm able to do what you did and go through what you went through so I can make it into your kingdom. Count it all joy when you fall into various trials, knowing that it's going to work out patience and endurance and perfection, just like it did in him. And he said to them, he probably had a little grin on his face. He probably had a little smirk and said, Yeah, you will indeed drink of this cup. All of you will. You shall indeed drink my cup, and you shall be immersed with the immersion that I am immersed with. But to sit on my right hand and on my left hand is not mine to give, but it is for those for whom it has been prepared by the Spirit of Almighty Yahweh, the Father. In other words, the Spirit had already said who's going to sit with him in his kingdom. And that's why it's laid out for us in the book of Revelation, in the visions of Yohanan. It's already written. But to be able to stand before him in that kingdom, yep, you will indeed go through the same trials, tribulation, and pressing that he went through. Let us strive to be found worthy to bear the cup of Yahweh. Right now, it's going to be sour and will be crucified physically by words, by emotions, by others who are outside of the faith. They'll make us drink this sour wine. But one day, as cupbearers, we'll be able to present our vessels and the vessels that we have brought with us for this wonderful marriage supper with freshly pressed, perfectly fermented, ready to drink, O King, wine. So again, yesterday morning, the evil seed whispered in my ear and said that I would not be strong enough to survive this storm. But this morning on Yahweh's Sabbath, I yell aloud in the ear of the evil seed, I am the storm. We are the storm. We will survive. He will not. Our seed, no matter how big or how small it is or was, belongs to Yah. And it will receive the inheritance of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. You have done nothing. That caused me to want to really just beat him up. Let us strive for perfection so that we have the opportunity to kick his butt. Cowardly to attack the children of Elohim. One day when Yahweh resurrects us from the dead and we become mighty with him in his kingdom, we're going to have the opportunity to do just that. We are part of Yahweh's army. Right now and in the kingdom to come, be of good courage, everyone, because he has given us the ability to overcome the world. That's the message today. Praise Yahweh. Hallelujah. So thank you, everybody, for joining us. We just pray that Yahweh blesses each and every one of you in your trials, in your sickness, whatever may be going on in your world. Know that Yahweh in his world is ready to bless you after you have persevered and endured and been perfected. Praise Yahweh. Hallelujah.